There are foods I never touched even once, not because I was allergic, not because I was religious, not because someone told me they were poison. I avoided them because my body told me to, because I watched what happened to people who ate them every day, because I saw the pattern long before scientists had a name for it. I am 98 years old, and I have buried most of the people I grew up with. Not all of them died old. Some died at 50, some at 60. Some made it to 70 and spent their last decade in pain, in hospitals, on medications that kept them alive but not living. I watched them fade. I watched their bodies break down in ways mine didn't. And I started asking questions. What did they eat that I didn't? What did they trust that I avoided? I grew up in a place where food was simple. We ate what we grew. We grew what the soil allowed. There were no grocery stores, no brands, no nutrition labels telling us what was healthy. We had vegetables from the garden, meat from animals we raised, eggs from chickens that walked freely, milk from cows that grazed on grass, bread we baked ourselves from flour we ground ourselves. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't always enough, but it was real, it was whole, it was unchanged. Then things shifted, slowly at first. New foods appeared in the markets, packaged foods, convenient foods, foods that didn't spoil, foods that tasted sweeter, saltier, richer than anything we'd ever eaten. The government said they were safe. They said they were modern. They said they were necessary to feed everyone. My neighbors started buying them. My relatives started cooking with them, and I watched what happened next. The first food I avoided was margarine. It came in blocks, wrapped in paper, cheaper than butter. The sellers said it was just as good, better even. No cholesterol, they said. Heart healthy, they said. My aunt switched to it completely. She spread it on bread. She cooked with it. She believed what the labels told her. Within 10 years, her heart failed. She had surgery. She took pills. She was told her arteries were clogged. The doctors didn't mention the margarine. They didn't ask what kind of fat she'd been eating. They just gave her more pills. I kept using butter, real butter. From cows, I knew. My grandmother told me that anything made in a factory instead of a farm should be questioned. She said food that didn't exist 100 years ago might not belong in a human body. She didn't know the science. She didn't know about trans fats or hydrogenation. She just knew that margarine didn't feel right. And I trusted her instinct more than I trusted the advertisements. The second food I avoided was vegetable oil, corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, oils that came in clear plastic bottles and stayed liquid even in the cold, oils that didn't smell like anything, oils that were promoted as healthy, as modern, as better than the animal fats our ancestors used. My mother started using them. Everyone did. They were cheaper. They were everywhere. The USDA recommended them. Doctors recommended them. But I didn't trust them. I used lard, I used tallow, I used the fats that came from the animals we ate. People laughed at me. They said I was old-fashioned. They said I was going to have a heart attack, but I didn't. My cholesterol was fine. My heart was fine. Meanwhile, people around me who cooked everything in vegetable oil started getting sick. Inflammation, joint pain, heart disease, diabetes. They were told it was genetics. They were told it was age. Nobody mentioned the oil. Years later, scientists admitted that vegetable oils were high in omega-6 fatty acids, which caused inflammation when consumed in excess. They admitted that these oils were often rancid before they even reached the store. They admitted that the process used to extract them involved high heat and chemical solvents. But by then, entire generations had grown up eating them. By then, heart disease was the leading cause of death, and still the USDA kept recommending them. The third food I avoided was breakfast cereal. Bright boxes, cartoon characters. Health claims on every panel, fortified with vitamins, high in fiber, part of a balanced breakfast. My cousins ate it every morning. Their children ate it. Their grandchildren ate it. I watched those children grow up tired, hungry an hour after eating, craving sugar by mid-morning. I watched them gain weight even though they were eating what the box said was healthy. I ate eggs. I ate porridge made from whole oats, cooked slowly with nothing added. I didn't need vitamins sprayed onto processed flakes. I got my vitamins from the eggs, from the butter I stirred into the porridge, from the vegetables I ate later. I didn't crash by 10 in the morning. I didn't crave sweets. I didn't need snacks between meals. My body stayed steady. My energy stayed even. The fourth food I avoided was low-fat dairy, skim milk, low-fat yogurt, fat-free cheese. The USDA pushed it hard. They said full-fat dairy caused heart disease. They said removing the fat made it healthier, so people bought it. They gave it to their children. They believed the labels. But I didn't. I remembered that milk was supposed to have fat. That fat carried vitamins. That fat made you feel full. That humans had been drinking whole milk for thousands of years without epidemics of heart disease. I kept drinking whole milk. I kept eating full-fat yogurt. I kept using real cream, and I stayed lean. I stayed strong. People who switched to low-fat dairy didn't lose weight. They stayed hungry. They ate more. They snacked more because fat satisfies. Fat signals to the body that it's had enough. Without it, the body keeps searching, keeps eating, keeps craving. The fifth food I avoided was anything labeled fat-free or sugar-free. If it was supposed to have fat and didn't, something else replaced it, usually sugar. If it was supposed to have sugar and didn't, something else replaced it, usually chemicals I couldn't pronounce. My neighbor ate fat-free cookies every afternoon. She thought she was being healthy. She gained weight anyway. Her blood sugar went wild. She developed diabetes. The doctors put her on insulin. Nobody asked about the cookies. I ate real cookies baked with real butter and real sugar, but only sometimes, not every day, not as a snack, as a treat. My body knew the difference between real food and fake food. It responded differently. Real sugar satisfied me with a small amount. Fake sugar left me wanting more. Real fat filled me up. Fake fat left me empty. The sixth food I avoided was soy products. Soy milk, soy burgers, soy protein, tofu in every meal. The USDA called soy a health food. They said it prevented disease. They said it was a perfect protein. My sister-in-law ate it constantly. She replaced meat with soy. She replaced milk with soy. Within a few years, her thyroid stopped working. She gained weight. She felt exhausted. The doctors gave her thyroid medication. They didn't ask about the soy. I didn't eat soy unless it was fermented, miso, tempeh, small amounts, the way it had been eaten in Asia for centuries, not processed into powders and patties, not consumed in massive quantities. I didn't trust that the body was designed to handle that much of something that had only recently been turned into a staple food. And my thyroid worked fine. My hormones stayed balanced. I aged without the crashes so many women experienced. The seventh food I avoided was whole wheat bread. Not bread in general, just the industrial whole wheat bread that appeared in stores. Dense, dark, full of fiber, they said. Heart healthy, they said. Better than white bread, they said. But it wasn't real whole wheat. It was flour, stripped and reassembled, with a little bran thrown back in. It spiked blood sugar almost as fast as white bread. It caused bloating. It caused inflammation. I watched people eat it religiously and still struggle with their weight, their digestion, their energy. I baked my own bread. Or I bought bread from people who baked it the old way, slowly fermented, naturally leavened, made from grain that hadn't been hybridized into something unrecognizable. That bread didn't make me tired. It didn't make me bloated. It didn't spike my blood sugar and crash me an hour later. It nourished me. The other bread just filled space. The eighth food I avoided was fruit juice, even fresh squeezed, even organic, even the kind parents gave their children thinking it was healthy. Juice is sugar without the fiber. It's a glass of fructose that hits the liver like a flood. It spikes insulin. It trains the body to crave more sugar. I saw children drink juice all day and never feel satisfied. I saw adults replace soda with juice and wonder why they didn't lose weight. I ate fruit, whole fruit, with the skin, with the fiber, with the water content that made me full. One apple satisfied me. A glass of apple juice made me want another glass. The body knows the difference. The liver knows the difference. But nobody was teaching that. The USDA was still recommending juice as part of a healthy diet, and people kept drinking it and kept getting sicker. The ninth food I avoided was anything with a health claim on the package. If it needed to tell me it was healthy, it probably wasn't. Real food doesn't need claims. An egg doesn't say heart healthy on the shell. A carrot doesn't say high in fiber on the skin. But processed foods scream their virtue. Low fat, high fiber, fortified, enriched. All of it a distraction from the fact that the food had been stripped, processed, and reassembled into something the body barely recognized. I ate food that didn't need labels, food that looked like what it was, food that would rot if I left it out too long, food that my great-grandmother would have recognized, and my body stayed strong. I didn't develop diabetes. I didn't develop heart disease. I didn't develop the cancers so many of my friends developed. I'm not saying I'm immune. I'm not saying I did everything right. I'm just saying I avoided the foods that everyone else was told were safe, and I'm still here. I don't think the USDA was trying to harm people. I think they were influenced by industry, by lobbyists, by companies that profit when people eat more, not less, when people eat processed, not whole, when people stay sick, not healthy. The guidelines weren't written by grandmothers who cooked from scratch. They were written by committees with funding and interests and blind spots, and millions of people followed those guidelines and got sicker. I didn't follow them. I followed my instincts. I followed my elders. I followed the quiet knowledge that real food doesn't need to be defended or marketed or chemically altered. It just is. And when you eat it, your body responds with health, not with cravings and crashes and chronic disease. I don't expect everyone to live the way I did. I don't expect people to grow their own food or bake their own bread or avoid every modern convenience. But I do think people should ask questions. I do think people should notice what happens to their bodies after they eat. I do think people should stop trusting labels and start trusting their instincts. I'm 98 years old. I've outlived most of the people who laughed at my choices. I've outlived the trends and the guidelines and the health claims that came and went. I didn't avoid death by being perfect. I avoided it by being careful, by listening, by not letting convenience or marketing decide what I put into my body. And I'm still here, still walking, still thinking, still eating real food. The kind that doesn't need the USDA's approval to nourish me.